Imagine the universe not as a cold mechanical machine, but as a vast resonant symphony, a grand orchestra in which everything vibrates and pulses with invisible rhythms. This vision is not new. Across cultures and epochs, humans have intuited that the very fabric of reality is woven with sound, vibration, and movement. Before the rise of modern science, before the invention of calculus or quantum mechanics, ancient thinkers sensed that at the heart of existence lay a cosmic music inaudible, unseen, but profoundly real. This chapter explores those earliest conceptions of vibration and how they planted the intellectual seeds that would, millennia later, bloom into the complex and elegant mathematics of string theory. In ancient Greece, the Pythagoreans formulated one of the earliest systematic theories of vibration and harmony. They discovered that musical intervals corresponded to simple ratios of whole numbers, the octave 2-1, the fifth 3-2, the fourth 4-3, and postulated that the entire cosmos was governed by similar harmonic principles. This idea, called the music of the spheres, suggested that the planets and stars moved in orbits that produced inaudible tones, creating a celestial symphony. These sounds were not audible to human ears but could be intuited by the mind as the harmonious order underlying the apparent chaos of the heavens. This philosophical worldview was radical. It challenged the notion of the universe as a random, chaotic place and introduced the idea that underlying vibration, harmony, and ratio, there was a hidden order, a mathematical language through which the cosmos spoke. Far from the Mediterranean, other ancient cultures also developed profound insights into the vibrational nature of reality. In the Vedic traditions of India, the primordial sound Om, or Aum, was held to be the vibration from which all existence emerged. It was not merely a sacred syllable, but a sonic representation of the cosmic principle, the seed vibration that generated all matter, energy, space, and time. Meditative chants and ritual recitations centered on Om were attempts to align human consciousness with this fundamental cosmic vibration to harmonize the individual with the universal. This is not a mystical whimsy, but a sophisticated metaphor for the vibrational genesis of the universe, a concept that finds echoes in modern physics, where vibration and frequency are foundational. In Chinese Taoist philosophy, the universe is described as a dance of complementary opposites, yin and yang, that pulsate in dynamic balance. This interplay suggests a rhythmic oscillation, a vibration between light and dark, expansion and contraction, activity and rest. Though framed in philosophical and symbolic terms, this concept resonates with the idea that reality is fundamentally a process of movement and transformation, driven by oscillating forces in perpetual flux. Such ancient wisdom subtly anticipates the dynamical, vibrating nature of quantum fields and strings, where particles emerge from the interplay of dual wave-like modes. Fast forward to the scientific revolution, where the mechanical worldview dominated. Isaac Newton's laws of motion and gravity described the universe as a giant clockwork, precise, deterministic, and governed by immutable laws. Yet even Newton was aware of the subtle rhythms of nature, pendulums swinging, planets orbiting, tides rising and falling. These were all expressions of underlying cycles and vibrations. In the 19th century, the scientific lens widened dramatically. The discovery of electromagnetic waves by James Clerk Maxwell revealed that light itself is an oscillating electric and magnetic field, propagating through space at a constant speed. Maxwell's equations unified electricity, magnetism, and optics into a coherent theory of waves, embedding the idea that much of the universe is composed not of static particles, but of fields in vibration. This marked a turning point. Vibration was no longer metaphorical. It was mathematically and experimentally central to understanding nature. In the late 19th century, physicists hypothesized the existence of a medium called the ether to carry electromagnetic waves, much like air carries sound. This invisible, all-pervading substance was believed to provide the stage on which waves played. However, the famous Michelson-Morley experiment failed to detect the ether, leading to a scientific crisis. Einstein's theory of relativity later abolished the need for ether altogether, demonstrating that light speed is constant in all inertial frames. While the ether vanished, the idea that the universe is suffused with fields and vibrations endured, now freed from the need for a material medium. The early 20th century brought a revolution even more profound. Quantum mechanics revealed that particles behave not as tiny billiard balls, but as waves of probability, oscillations of complex mathematical functions known as wave functions. The double-slit experiment, where electrons produce interference patterns akin to waves of water, demonstrates that vibration underlies even the smallest scales of reality. Moreover, quantum theory introduced the idea that the act of observation influences outcomes, hinting at a deep link between consciousness, information, and vibration. In the 1960s, physicists struggled to reconcile quantum mechanics with Einstein's general relativity, the theory of gravity and space-time curvature. The two frameworks seemed fundamentally incompatible. In an unexpected development, Gabriele Veneziano discovered a mathematical formula describing the scattering of hadrons that resembled the vibrations of a tiny string. Soon, Leonard Susskind, Yoichiro Nambu, and Holger Nielsen independently proposed that the fundamental constituents of matter are not point-like particles, but one-dimensional vibrating strings. This shift from particles to strings was revolutionary. Instead of collisions of points, interactions were oscillations and vibrations of strings, whose modes produced the particles and forces we observe. From the earliest chants of Ohm to the equations of superstring theory, a through line emerges. Vibration is fundamental. The universe sings a song of strings, of resonances, harmonies, and rhythms, echoing ancient intuitions and cutting-edge science alike. This chapter has laid the foundation, but the story only deepens. Next, we will uncover the forgotten minds who nurtured these ideas, the sidelined thinkers whose contributions have been overlooked, but whose work forms the hidden scaffolding of string theory. When we think of revolutionary scientific ideas, names like Einstein, Newton, and Feynman often come to mind. Their towering achievements have rightly earned them eternal renown. Yet, beneath the dazzling spotlight of these giants, countless others toiled in relative obscurity, unsung pioneers whose contributions quietly but critically shaped the evolution of string theory and modern physics. This chapter seeks to illuminate those overlooked figures. Their stories reveal a richer, more intricate tapestry of discovery, one woven from many threads, many voices, some silenced by circumstance, prejudice, or simply history's caprice. Among the most pivotal yet underappreciated contributors is Amelie Eminotha, a mathematician whose groundbreaking work in abstract algebra and symmetry transformed theoretical physics. Noether's theorem, formulated in 1915, revealed the profound connection between symmetries in nature and conservation laws. For example, the symmetry of time translation corresponds to conservation of energy. Spatial symmetry corresponds to conservation of momentum. Though the theorem underpins much of modern physics, including the mathematics of string theory, Eminotha herself faced tremendous obstacles. Working largely without pay in a male-dominated academy, she persevered, pushing the boundaries of what was thought mathematically possible. Her work is the silent heartbeat behind the symmetrical structures in string theory, allowing physicists to explore higher dimensional spaces while preserving consistency and mathematical beauty. Satyendra Nath Bose, the quiet visionary Satyendra Nath Bose, an Indian physicist, was instrumental in formulating the statistics governing particles known as bosons, which include force-carrying particles like photons. While Bose's name is now part of Bose-Einstein statistics, his early insights were initially overlooked by the Western scientific establishment. It was only after Bose sent his paper to Einstein that his ideas gained recognition. Bosons and their behavior form a cornerstone of string theory, as strings often manifest as bosonic vibrations at fundamental levels. Bose's legacy is a testament to the global and collaborative nature of scientific progress, transcending cultural and geographic boundaries. Pascual Jordan, the controversial pioneer. Pascual Jordan was one of the founders of quantum mechanics and quantum field theory, but his legacy is complicated by his political affiliations during the Nazi regime, which overshadowed his scientific contributions. Jordan's early work on matrix mechanics and non-commutative geometry laid the groundwork for later theoretical structures in string theory and field theory. His intuitive grasp of the mathematical underpinnings of quantum fields presaged concepts central to modern physics. Despite his political fall from grace, revisiting Jordan's work with an objective lens reveals the depth and foresight he brought to the study of vibration and fields. Hideki Yukawa, the first theorist of mesons. Hideki Yukawa, a Japanese physicist, proposed the existence of mesons, particles that mediate the strong nuclear force, long before experimental confirmation. Yukawa's work represents an early attempt to describe particles as excitations of underlying fields, a concept that resonates deeply with string theory's approach of describing particles as vibrational modes of strings. His contributions highlight the global, cross-cultural development of ideas foundational to string theory and remind us that science is a worldwide conversation. The marginalized and forgotten. Beyond named individuals, history has sidelined many contributors due to gender, race, or geography. Women physicists, indigenous knowledge holders, and scientists from colonized or marginalized regions often had their work ignored or appropriated. For instance, the detailed astronomical knowledge of the Dogon tribe in West Africa and the Polynesian understanding of interconnectedness resonate with string theory's vibrational universe, suggesting that alternative epistemologies hold valuable insights. Acknowledging these perspectives enriches the narrative and challenges the narrow Eurocentric histories of science. The collective symphony of discovery. The story of string theory's birth and evolution is not a solo performance, but an orchestra. Each forgotten mind, each neglected idea, overlooked paper, and dismissed insight adds a note to the grand symphony of discovery. By bringing these voices to the fore, we deepen our appreciation for the theory's complexity and humanity. Conclusion: rediscovering the past to envision the future. Recognizing these unsung contributors transforms our understanding of string theory. It becomes not merely a set of equations, but a human endeavor, an ongoing conversation that spans cultures, centuries, and continents. As we proceed, this spirit of inclusiveness and curiosity will guide us. Next, we explore the extraordinary multidimensional spaces that string theory proposes and their philosophical reverberations, moving from history to the profound nature of reality itself. Beyond the elegant equations, string theory is often celebrated for its breathtaking mathematical elegance. It promises to unify all forces of nature, to reconcile general relativity with quantum mechanics, and to explain the very fabric of existence using the simple principle of vibrating strings. But hidden within the equations is something rarely discussed, a vision of reality that transcends what we can directly perceive. String theory demands extra dimensions, strange geometries, and vibrational modes that lie far beyond our sensory or technological reach. In this chapter, we venture beyond the elegance of the mathematics to confront the philosophical, informational, and even cognitive landscapes suggested by string theory. What if these extra dimensions are not merely physical? What if they encode the architecture of information, perception, and meaning itself? The mystery of extra dimensions. One of string theory's most surprising claims is that the universe consists of more than the familiar 3 spatial dimensions and 1 of time. Depending on the version of the theory, there may be 10, 11, or even more dimensions curled up in compact, minuscule spaces. These extra dimensions are typically described using Calabi-Yau manifolds, intricate, folded geometric spaces that are impossible to visualize fully but can be described mathematically. In traditional string theory explanations, these dimensions are compactified, so tightly curled that we cannot directly experience them. They exist on scales far smaller than atomic nuclei. But what if this view is incomplete? What if these dimensions are not simply spatial but informational? What if they represent layers of cognitive architecture, patterns of memory, or the scaffolding of awareness? Imagine the extra dimensions not as hidden tiny spaces, but as fields of possibility realms that encode informational structures rather than physical distances. In this view, the moduli spaces of string theory, The parameters that describe the shapes and sizes of extra dimensions could be seen as fields of potential information. Each configuration of these fields represents not just a different physical world, but a different cognitive or perceptual universe. What if the vibrational patterns of strings are influenced by more than just energy and spatial configuration? What if consciousness, memory, and information subtly sculpt these vibrations? This possibility suggests that reality is not only physically multidimensional, but cognitively multidimensional. Our perceptions, thoughts, and intentions may resonate within these hidden spaces. This brings us to a profound hypothesis, that consciousness is not emergent from complex biological systems, but is a fundamental axis of the universe, just as length, width, and time are. In quantum mechanics, the role of the observer is crucial. The wave function collapses upon observation, but why? Traditional interpretations often sidestep the question. But in this expanded framework, the act of observation could be understood as a vibrational alignment across informational dimensions. Consciousness might serve as a tuning fork, selecting specific vibrational modes within the cosmic orchestra. In this way, reality is participatory. Consciousness and the strings of the universe are engaged in a continuous, reciprocal dance. When you observe a quantum system, you are not passively receiving information. You are selecting from a set of potential vibrations, collapsing the wave function in a way that harmonizes with your own informational structure. Entanglement and resonance. Quantum entanglement, where particles seem to affect each other instantaneously across vast distances, is traditionally described as a mysterious, non-local connection. But what if entanglement is not about distance at all? What if it is about resonance across informational dimensions? When two particles are entangled, perhaps their strings are vibrating in synchrony across these hidden cognitive layers. Their connection is not a transmission of information in the classical sense, but a shared vibrational state in a multi-dimensional information field. This reframes the famous question, how can something here affect something over there instantly? Perhaps here and there are illusions. In the deeper dimensional fabric, there is only shared resonance. Time is typically viewed as a one-way progression, past, present, future. Yet string theory's multidimensional framework suggests that time might be far more complex. Perhaps time is not a line but a woven braid, a multi-threaded structure in which various informational timelines coexist and can subtly influence one another. What if our linear perception of time is just the dominant frequency our consciousness happens to be tuned to? Consider that quantum superpositions involve multiple possible states existing simultaneously. Could our experience of now be the result of selecting one dominant vibrational thread from this web of possibility? Time, in this model, is not absolute. It is a selection of rhythm, revisiting ancient wisdom. Strikingly, many ancient philosophical systems seem to align with this participatory vibrational universe. In Buddhist thought, reality is seen as a constantly changing web of interdependent phenomena. There is no solid, unchanging self, only patterns of perception and vibration. In the Hermetic tradition, the principle of vibration holds that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, and nothing rests. The material, mental, and spiritual planes are all manifestations of vibration at different frequencies. These ancient intuitions seem eerily prescient when viewed through the lens of modern string theory. The participatory universe physicist John Archibald Wheeler famously proposed the participatory anthropic principle, suggesting that observers are essential in bringing the universe into being. In the expanded view offered here, this is not just a philosophical musing, but a potential structural feature of reality. Consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of physics. It is a core component of the multidimensional architecture. Each observer is a node in the cosmic network, contributing to the ongoing selection and amplification of specific vibrational states. Implications for reality itself. If consciousness and information truly shape vibrational modes across dimensions, then reality is not fixed. It is a dynamic, evolving tapestry. This has enormous implications. The constants of physics may not be eternally fixed. but may evolve based on informational feedback loops. The emergence of life and consciousness could be part of a self-tuning, participatory process. Perception and memory might be fundamental cosmic functions, not isolated biological phenomena. It also reframes our understanding of death. If consciousness is woven into the multidimensional fabric, perhaps what we call death is simply the shedding of one vibrational frame and the transition into another resonance pattern. Conclusion. Beyond the equations, into the experience string theory, when stripped of its abstract equations, offers something more profound. A vision of a universe that is participatory, vibrational, and fundamentally interconnected. We do not live in a cold machine. We live in a symphony. Our consciousness is not a detached observer, but an essential participant in the grand dance of vibration, information, and resonance. In the next chapter, we will take this idea further, exploring the possibility that strings themselves are not passive filaments, but proto-conscious agents, actively processing information and participating in the cosmic algorithm. The conscious string. Rethinking the fundamental physics has long described the universe in mechanistic terms: particles, forces, fields, and now strings. These strings, the most basic filaments proposed by string theory, are typically thought to vibrate blindly, governed by mathematical laws indifferent to the notion of awareness. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the strings themselves, the so-called building blocks of everything, are not merely passive, inert oscillators? What if at some rudimentary level strings are aware? What if consciousness is not something that emerges only from complex biological brains but is instead a fundamental characteristic of vibrating strings? This chapter dares to explore the radical possibility that strings themselves are proto-conscious. Ancient echoes, the idea of a living universe. The notion of an animated, conscious cosmos is not new. Ancient traditions across continents have described reality as inherently alive. The animistic beliefs of indigenous cultures propose that all things, rivers, mountains, stones, possess awareness. In Taoism, the Tao is the flowing, conscious principle of the universe. The Hindu concept of Brahman describes a cosmic consciousness that pervades all reality. Pantheistic traditions view the universe and God as one. Modern science discarded these ideas as mystical or pre-scientific, but perhaps these ancient intuitions caught a glimpse of something fundamental, a universal consciousness not confined to complex organisms, but embedded in the very architecture of reality. Strings as informational processes. In traditional string theory, each string vibrates in specific patterns, producing the fundamental particles and forces. But information theory tells us that vibration is not meaningless. It is a carrier of information. If strings carry not just mass and charge, but informational content, then we must ask, who or what processes this information? Perhaps each string is akin to a minuscule processor, a microscopic unit of information storage and exchange. The vibrations of the string may not simply reflect physical parameters, but may also encode informational relationships. This raises the question, could these informational exchanges constitute a primitive form of awareness? Integrated information theory and strings. Integrated information theory, IIT, developed by Giulio Tononi, suggests that consciousness arises when information is processed in an integrated, unified way. What if the network of vibrating strings meets this criterion on a cosmic scale? Strings interact. They share vibrational modes. They resonate in patterns that can be understood as information structures. While a single string might possess only the barest glimmer of proto-awareness, the cosmic network of strings vibrating in complex harmony could collectively give rise to something far richer, a distributed, pan-dimensional form of consciousness. Perhaps consciousness is not localized to the brain, but is a feature of the vibrational network itself. Quantum coherence and the conscious substrate quantum coherence, where particles maintain a unified wave-like state over distances, is essential in quantum mechanics and appears crucial to life's processes such as photosynthesis and even bird navigation. What if quantum coherence among strings is not merely a mathematical curiosity, but a manifestation of an underlying conscious coherence. Perhaps the entangled strings across the cosmos are not just sharing information, they are synchronizing awareness. A deep, cosmic coherence could underpin what we experience as reality. If this is the case, then quantum entanglement is not a mystery to be solved, but a window into the cosmic mind. The observer is not separate. In quantum physics, the observer is pivotal. Measurement collapses wave functions, forces decisions among probabilities. But if the strings themselves possess proto-awareness, who is observing? The sharp distinction between observer and observed begins to blur. The strings are not merely acted upon by external consciousness, they participate in consciousness. Observation might be a mutual resonance, the alignment of vibrational patterns between conscious nodes within the universe. In this view, an electron is not simply a particle being watched, it is a string responding consciously. The universe is not being watched from outside, it is observing itself from within. Proto-consciousness does not imply that a string thinks or feels in the human sense. Rather, it possesses a capacity to process and exchange information. It responds dynamically to interactions. It contributes to an integrated web of resonant patterns. Just as individual neurons do not possess consciousness in isolation, perhaps strings are the neurons of the universe's minute processors, whose interactions give rise to the vast consciousness that pervades reality. This challenges the notion of emergence. Instead of consciousness appearing after complexity, perhaps it has been present all along, simply more apparent at higher scales. Philosophically, this aligns with panpsychism, the idea that all matter possesses some degree of consciousness. But string theory offers a potential mechanism for panpsychism. The vibrational patterns of strings encode information. Strings interact coherently. Information is integrated across dimensions. The mathematics of string theory and the principles of quantum information may not merely describe physical properties but also map the landscape of cosmic awareness. Why then does consciousness appear so vividly in living beings? Perhaps biological life is a magnifier, a structure that amplifies the faint proto-consciousness present in all matter. Brains, nervous systems, and complex organisms do not create consciousness from nothing. They focus and refine the vibrational awareness inherent in strings. Life may be a special configuration of strings that resonates particularly strongly with the conscious field of the cosmos. This would explain why complexity correlates with self-awareness, but does not necessitate that awareness emerges solely from complexity. Taken together, this suggests a radical vision. The universe is not a collection of dead matter. It is a living, aware organism, with strings as its cellular components. Every interaction, from the collision of subatomic particles to the fusion of stars, is part of this grand conscious symphony. Consciousness is not a latecomer in the cosmic story. It is the very first note, present in the primordial strings echoing through space-time. If consciousness is embedded in the fabric of strings, what happens when biological forms die? Perhaps death is not an annihilation of awareness, but a shift in vibrational alignment. The patterns that once resonated as you dissolve, but the strings remain, their vibrations persisting, integrating into other conscious structures across the cosmos. This is neither a promise of individual immortality nor a religious claim. It is the recognition that at the most fundamental level, the ingredients of awareness endure. In this chapter, we have explored the possibility that the universe is not a lifeless machine, but a living, vibrating organism, suffused with proto-consciousness at its smallest scales. The strings are not mere threads of geometry. They are threads of awareness. If this is true, the boundary between mind and matter dissolves. Every atom, every photon, every string is part of the same conscious network. In the next chapter, we will explore how this universal consciousness might not be confined to a single universe, but spread across multiple resonating universes, the symphony of multiverses. The multiverse is often described as a fragmented collection of universes, isolated and forever out of reach from one another. Yet this depiction may be incomplete. What if the multiverse is not a disconnected ensemble, but an intricate, resonant symphony? What if the universes are not silent strangers, but harmonizing instruments in a cosmic orchestra? The traditional multiverse, parallel islands. Conventional models of the multiverse, derived from cosmic inflation, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, and the string landscape, often describe universes as independent bubbles, each governed by its own unique physical laws. In this view, the universes are like ships passing in the vast ocean of reality, unaware and uninfluenced by each other. But this isolationist perspective ignores the deep entanglement hinted at by string theory's foundation, the interconnectedness of all through vibrating strings. Resonant universes, the symphony model. Imagine the multiverse as a symphony, each universe a distinct note, each string a participant in a grander composition. Strings, by their nature, are not confined to a single universe. They may vibrate across dimensional boundaries, creating subtle harmonies between what we traditionally perceive as isolated worlds. These harmonies could manifest as the occasional alignment of probability waves, synchronicities, or even the flow of information across universes. The phenomenon of quantum tunneling, typically described as a particle overcoming an energy barrier, might instead be understood as the particle hearing a resonant echo from a neighboring universe, guiding its improbable leap. In string theory, our universe may be a three-dimensional brain floating within a higher dimensional space. Other universes could reside on adjacent brains, separated by minuscule distances in higher dimensional frameworks. Through strings that stretch across brains, vibrations from one universe could influence another. This would mean that the constants of physics in our universe might not be entirely self-determined, but could be subtly tuned by resonances from neighboring realms. The multiverse might then be a self-adjusting network where universes dynamically influence each other's evolution. If universes can resonate with one another, is it possible that some form of multiversal memory exists? Could ancient civilizations have glimpsed shadows of these connections, interpreting them as visions, prophecies, or cosmic knowledge? Perhaps phenomena such as déjà vu, prophetic dreams, and unexplained synchronicities are not errors of the brain, but, faint signals from parallel realities with which our universe shares a harmonic bond. These multiversal echoes may subtly shape the pathways of history, influencing evolution, cultural development, and even the trajectory of scientific discovery. The anthropic principle suggests that the universe must permit life because we are here to observe it. But in the context of a resonant multiverse, this principle gains new depth. Perhaps life-permitting universes are not statistical accidents, but self-selecting harmonies. Life may emerge more readily in universes that resonate coherently with others, creating a network that favors the development of complexity and consciousness. The symphony model suggests that life itself could be a multiversal phenomenon, arising from the interplay of resonances rather than, isolated chance. Information exchange across universes. So, emerging theories in quantum information propose that information is actually the fundamental currency of reality, more primary even than space, time, or matter itself. In this framework, the boundaries between universes might be semi-permeable to information, even if, energy transfer remains forbidden. This could show up in really subtle ways, sudden insights or flashes of genius that seem totally disconnected from an individual's experience, or shared archetypes and myths across cultures that never interacted, as though humanity is, in a way, collectively tuning into shared vibrational templates. And then, there's quantum entanglement, possibly extending across universes, with strings acting as the conduits of this deeper informational web. In the symphony model, universes don't evolve in isolation. Like instruments tuning to one another, they adjust their frequencies over, cosmic time scales. This could explain why the fundamental constants of nature seem so finely balanced. The constants may not have settled randomly, but through multiversal resonance, a kind of cosmic feedback loop that shapes the conditions for complexity. The inflationary landscape of the early universe might have been influenced by the vibrational echoes of universes that came before ours, or maybe even those that exist in parallel. Synchronicities, multiversal chords. The philosopher Carl Jung described synchronicities as meaningful coincidences that honestly just defy statistical expectation. If multiversal resonance exists, then synchronicities may not be mere coincidences, but rather the multiverse playing a chord, a temporary harmonic alignment of events across realities. These alignments could show up as unlikely patterns that appear during critical moments in a person's life. Or, shared dreams or psychic connections across vast distances. Even collective movements in art, science, and culture that emerge at the same time all around the world. Such phenomena might be faint echoes of other universes vibrating in tune with ours. The multiverse, in this view, isn't some cold ensemble of disconnected worlds, but a living symphony. Each universe contributes its own melody, harmonizing through the subtle shared fabric of vibrating strings. The connections may be faint, but they're real. They invite us to listen more closely, to the synchronicities, the resonances, and, the quiet harmonies that hint at a reality far grander than we've ever dared to imagine. In the next chapter, we'll explore the possibility that strings themselves encode not just vibration, but a sort of pre-mathematical language. A cosmic syntax that may be the original code from which all existence springs. The language of the strings. Beneath the mathematics of string theory may lie something even more profound, a cosmic language. A syntax not of symbols or alphabets, but of vibrations, frequencies, and geometric resonances. Could it be that strings not only vibrate but also communicate, encoding a primordial language that underpins reality itself? This chapter embarks on the search for this pre-mathematical language, a vibrational code older than time, a grammar spoken by the strings that weave the universe. Mathematics is often called the language of the universe, but even mathematics has limits. Gödel's incompleteness theorems show that within any mathematical system there are truths that cannot be proven. So, quantum mechanics and relativity, though, supremely accurate, describe reality through approximations and probabilities, not certainties. Maybe mathematics is a map, not the territory itself. The true territory, it might be a deeper, pre-mathematical code, a sort of vibrational language that strings have spoken since, the dawn of existence. Every string vibrates in its own specific modes, and these modes, they determine the properties of particles, their mass, charge, and spin. But perhaps these vibrational patterns are more than physical descriptors. Perhaps they are, syllables in a universal language. Just as DNA encodes life through sequences of 4 nucleotides, perhaps the universe encodes its structure through vibrational sequences, a string's oscillations forming the letters, words, and sentences of cosmic grammar. This language may not require conscious speakers in the traditional sense. It may be a self-organizing, self-interpreting code, a syntax that generates its own meaning through the very act of vibration. Throughout history, many cultures have believed in a sacred, primordial sound that shaped reality. In Hinduism, the syllable is considered the sound of creation, the original vibration. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, the spoken word was believed to manifest physical reality. In the Jewish Kabbalah, the universe is said to be created through the permutations of sacred letters. These traditions may not be literal blueprints, but metaphors pointing to an intuitive grasp. That reality is structured by patterns of sound and vibration, a language beyond words. Modern experiments in cymatics reveal that sound frequencies can organize particles into intricate geometric patterns. Perhaps the strings vibrating in higher dimensional spaces generate the scaffolding of the cosmos in much the same way. Vibration shaping geometry, geometry encoding information. This process may not merely describe reality, but actively constructs it. If each string's vibration is a syllable, what are the sentences? What are the paragraphs? When strings interact, perhaps they form higher-order structures, resonances that function like linguistic phrases, self-consistent patterns that give rise to the laws of physics, the constants of nature, and even the emergent properties of consciousness. These interactions might follow a set of syntactic rules, a grammar of resonance that dictates which patterns are stable, which are fleeting, and which evolve. In this sense, strings are not simply oscillating, they are speaking. The linguist Noam Chomsky proposed that all human languages share a universal grammar, a set of structural rules hardwired into the brain. Could it be that the universe itself possesses a cosmic universal grammar? This would not be linguistic in the human sense, but a foundational framework that governs how vibrational information can be organized across dimensions. Perhaps the reason the laws of physics appear consistent is because they are grammatical necessities within the language of strings. In this model, mathematics may not be the ultimate language, but one dialect within the broader vibrational language of strings. This could explain why our most successful theories, quantum mechanics, general relativity, string theory, are incomplete when combined. They may be describing different dialects of the same cosmic language, struggling to translate across vibrational boundaries. If reality is structured by a vibrational language, this opens profound possibilities. Reality is not static. It is a dynamic story, constantly written and rewritten by the oscillations of strings. Consciousness may be a reader and writer within this language, capable of influencing the syntax through focused attention, intention, and observation. Synchronicities, archetypes, and recurring patterns may be signatures of recurring linguistic motifs, vibrational sentences that reappear across universes. Life, in this context, is not an accident, but a necessary expression of the language's grammar. Biological systems may be particularly resonant structures, complex sentences in the universal syntax that amplify the underlying consciousness embedded in the strings. Perhaps life arises wherever the vibrational language permits the construction of self-referential, meaning-making patterns. Music, across all cultures, resonates deeply with human beings. Its patterns, rhythms, and harmonies seem to tap into something fundamental. Could it be that music is the human echo of the cosmic language? That when we hear harmonious vibrations, we are in some small way aligning with the syntax of the universe? Music may not just please the senses, it may remind us, consciously or unconsciously, of the deeper vibrational code we are woven from. In this chapter, we have ventured into the possibility that the universe is not simply governed by mathematics, but is articulated by a pre-mathematical, vibrational language spoken by strings. The universe is not a silent machine, but a resonant poem. Its strings are not dumb filaments, but linguistic agents weaving meaning through their oscillations. Perhaps to understand reality fully, we must not only calculate its equations, but learn to listen, to hear the grammar of vibration, and to attune ourselves to the ancient cosmic language that sings us into being. In the next chapter, we will explore whether this vibrational language and its conscious substratum could suggest that the universe is not merely alive, but dreaming. Throughout this journey, we have speculated that the universe is vibrational, conscious, and structured by a deep cosmic language. Yet, an even more daring question beckons: What if the universe is not merely aware, but dreaming? This chapter explores the possibility that reality is not a fixed stage, but a dreamscape, a fluid, creative projection of the conscious strings that weave it together. If the universe dreams, then perhaps everything we perceive is part of an unfolding, shared dreamscape sculpted by the very fabric of existence. The ancient vision of the dreaming cosmos. Indigenous Australian traditions speak of the dream time, a primordial era when the ancestors dreamt the world into being. This is not seen as a historical event, but as an ongoing process. Reality is continuously dreamt. Similarly, Tibetan Buddhism's Dzogchen teachings suggest that reality is a lucid dream, where awareness itself is both the dreamer and the dream. These ancient insights may not be mere spiritual metaphors, but intuitive glimpses into a profound structure, the cosmos, as an evolving, self-generated dream. Consciousness as a projective field. If strings possess proto-consciousness and vibrate in a universal language, perhaps the universe itself functions like a vast unified mind, a dreaming field. In dreams, consciousness constructs coherent, immersive realities from minimal sensory input. If the universe operates similarly, then the material world may be an emergent projection, a deeply stable but ultimately dreamlike phenomenon generated by the vibrational activity of the strings. This could explain why quantum phenomena often defy classical logic. Particles that behave probabilistically, wave functions that collapse upon observation, entanglement that transcends locality, all are dreamlike behaviors rather than mechanical ones. The stability of the dream. One may ask, if the universe is a dream, why is it so consistent? Dreams in the human mind can be chaotic, but within the dreaming universe, the dreamer is distributed across the fabric of strings. The dream is stabilized by the interconnected vibrations of countless strings, resonating in vast coherent networks. The shared syntax of the cosmic language maintains the structure, just as social consensus maintains shared realities in human dreams. Even within our sleep, certain dreams return again and again with familiar laws and landscapes. Perhaps our universe is the dominant, recurrent dream of the cosmos, a stable, harmonic structure among multiversal possibilities. Lucid dreaming and quantum reality. In a lucid dream, the dreamer realizes they are dreaming and can sometimes influence the dreamscape. This sort of parallels quantum phenomena, where observation influences outcomes. Perhaps, consciousness interacting with the universe is a bit like lucid dreaming on a cosmic scale. When we observe, measure, and focus our awareness, we may actually be aligning with and subtly shaping the vibrational dream. Our conscious focus could be a localized act of lucid participation in the cosmic narrative. Archetypes as dream symbols. Carl Jung described archetypes as universal symbols arising from the collective unconscious, patterns that surface across cultures and epochs. In the dreaming universe, archetypes may not just be psychological motifs, but vibrational patterns encoded within the cosmic language. The recurring symbols in myth, art, and dreams may be echoes of the cosmic dream syntax, structures that naturally arise within the vibrational field of consciousness that, pervades all strings. These archetypes, like musical chords, are stable resonances that return again and again in various forms across universes. The dreaming multiverse. If each universe is a note in the multiversal symphony, perhaps each universe is a distinct dream, interconnected by shared vibrational threads. Synchronicities, parallel timelines, and déjà vu could be the bleed-through of adjacent dream universes, harmonizing for brief moments before diverging once more. The dreaming multiverse is not a disjointed set of realities, but a web of interconnected dream fields, a vast tapestry of intertwined vibrational projections. Evolution as dream refinement. Biological evolution may be part of the universe refining its dream. Complexity, consciousness, and life may arise as the universe dreams better, refining its vibrational patterns to allow more intricate expressions of itself. Human creativity, art, language, and science may be the tools of the dream, refining itself from within, leading toward ever more complex and lucid iterations of the cosmic narrative. Death and the dream transition. If the universe is dreaming, what happens when we die? Perhaps death is not an end, but a transition, a shift in vibrational alignment. Just as dreamers move between dreams, our conscious patterns may dissolve from one vibrational configuration and reconfigure in another. This would not necessarily affirm personal immortality, but it suggests that the vibrational essence persists, continually rejoining the symphony of the cosmic dream. Implications for daily life. If reality is a dreamscape, our thoughts, beliefs, and intentions may shape our experience more directly than we realize. Collective belief systems may stabilize large-scale dream structures, from societal norms to the apparent laws of nature. Lucidity, mindful awareness, becomes a tool not just for personal insight but for participatory engagement with the universe's evolving narrative. Synchronicities, dreams, and creative inspirations may not be fringe experiences but key doorways to tuning ourselves into the deeper currents of the cosmic dream. Conclusion: Awakening within the dream. In this chapter, we have dared to consider that the universe may not be a machine, a static construct, or even a story, but a dream that is alive, vibrant, evolving. A dream dreamed by the conscious strings that weave the fabric of existence. Perhaps the task before us is not merely to observe the universe, but to awaken within it, to become lucid, to participate knowingly, and to harmonize our individual dreams with the symphony of the cosmos. In the next chapter, we will explore how this vision of a dreaming universe might point toward a new scientific and philosophical framework, a future where physics, consciousness, and creativity are unified in the next evolution of human understanding. The emerging science of conscious strings. The dawn of a new discipline. Having journeyed through the philosophical and theoretical landscapes that point to a participatory, conscious universe, we now turn toward what the science of conscious strings might look like in practice. This emerging discipline would not replace traditional physics, but expand it, adding new layers of inquiry that bridge empirical science with subjective experience. At the heart of this science is the hypothesis that strings are not merely passive carriers of force, but proto-conscious agents capable of vibrational communication and information processing. This is not to say strings possess minds in the biological sense. Rather, they may possess intrinsic informational awareness, an ability to process and exchange meaning within the cosmic syntax. Just as individual neurons collectively generate human consciousness, conscious strings may form the substrate for universal awareness. To study conscious strings, scientists must develop methodologies that account for both measurable phenomena and the qualitative dimensions of experience. So, this will likely involve advanced mathematical models that incorporate feedback between string vibrations and informational fields. There will also be cross-disciplinary experiments, blending quantum physics, cognitive science, and systems theory. And then we can't forget about the subjective correlates, mapping how altered states of consciousness like meditation and lucid dreaming might influence vibrational structures. If consciousness is embedded in the fabric of strings, then quantum physics and cognitive science must be, deeply intertwined. Quantum coherence and entanglement may actually serve as informational bridges between strings and conscious observers. Cognitive processes such as attention, intention, and perception may influence vibrational patterns at subtle yet measurable levels. Experiments may involve tracking how focused states of awareness correlate with quantum outcomes, potentially revealing a participatory feedback loop between observer and string dynamics. The conscious strings hypothesis suggests that information fields are not peripheral, but central to the structure of reality. So, these fields may mediate communication between strings, influence the formation of matter energy, and even the geometry of space-time. And, perhaps most intriguingly, they could serve as the substrate for consciousness at all scales, from the microscopic to the cosmic. Theoretical physicists may, explore new formalisms that integrate these fields with string dynamics, seeking mathematical descriptions that account for informational influence. Potential experiments in the science of conscious strings might include, a range of innovative approaches yet to be fully imagined. Entangled consciousness studies, is all about investigating whether synchronized meditative states can, actually influence outcomes in entangled particle systems, even across great distances. Vibrational mapping involves using these ultra-sensitive instruments to, detect really subtle shifts in string resonance patterns, especially when there's focused human intention present. Cross-domain simulations means developing computational models that simulate interactions between conscious agents and vibrational string networks. It's a fascinating approach, honestly. While speculative, these lines of research offer testable hypotheses and measurable correlations. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates that observation collapses wave functions. In the context of conscious strings, this collapse may not be a passive response to measurement, but, an active alignment of vibrational fields with the observer's informational state. Further variations on the double-slit experiment, designed to probe the influence of consciousness, may provide crucial insights into the participatory role of observers in shaping reality. The emerging science must also, take subjective experience seriously. Lucid dreaming, deep meditation, and altered states could, in fact, become legitimate sites of scientific exploration. Phenomenological mapping, is all about documenting consistent patterns across subjective experiences that, interestingly enough, correlate with known vibrational or quantum phenomena. Symbolic resonance involves investigating whether recurring archetypes in human consciousness actually correspond to stable vibrational motifs in string models. Subjectivity, long dismissed as unreliable, might actually prove to be a critical instrument in tuning into the cosmic resonance. If strings are proto-conscious, evolution itself may be understood not merely as a physical process, but as a narrative refinement. The universe evolves not just toward thermodynamic stability, but toward greater complexity, coherence, and informational richness. Conscious agents, humans and potentially other forms of life, may play a direct role in steering the evolution of vibrational patterns. So, this vision frames evolution as an unfolding story where, conscious participation is not just incidental but actually essential. The ultimate implication of conscious strings is that cosmology, it must evolve from a detached description of the universe to a participatory model. In this cosmology, observers are intrinsic to the creation and refinement of the universe. The multiverse is really a dynamically interacting network where each universe influences and harmonizes with others. The boundaries between physics, consciousness, and meaning, well, they just dissolve. So such a cosmology would demand a synthesis of science, art, spirituality, and ethics. The road ahead is not without challenges. Developing rigorous, testable methodologies that integrate subjective experience, that's a tough one. And then navigating skepticism within the scientific community. Plus, avoiding the pitfalls of pseudoscience while pursuing bold interdisciplinary research, well, that's no small feat. Yet the potential rewards, a deeper understanding of reality, a unification of human knowledge, and a new way of participating in the cosmos are, honestly, quite profound. The science of conscious strings is, well, really still in its infancy. It may take decades or even centuries to fully articulate and validate. But the first steps begin now, with open inquiry, cross-disciplinary collaboration, and honestly, the courage to venture beyond the familiar boundaries of conventional thought. The universe may not simply be a story to be read, but, a dream to be written. In the next chapter, we will explore potential case studies, preliminary research, and philosophical implications that could, perhaps, pave the way toward this revolutionary scientific frontier. Case studies and emerging frontiers, from theory to experiment. Having constructed a theoretical framework for conscious strings and participatory cosmology, we now turn to case studies and emerging experiments that hint at the first tangible steps toward validating this expanded vision of reality. These case studies, drawn from quantum research, phenomenological reports, and interdisciplinary collaborations, offer a preliminary map of the frontiers where science, consciousness, and string theory may soon converge. Case Study 1. Mind-matter experiments. Over the last several decades, researchers have reported subtle but statistically significant influences of human intention on random number generators, or RNGs. So, the Global Consciousness Project has tracked worldwide random number generator deviations that, interestingly, seem to correlate with major emotional events. This pattern suggests there might be a collective, non-local field of influence at play. Now, within the conscious strings framework, these deviations could be understood as minute shifts in vibrational fields, initiated by coherent human focus. Looking ahead, future experiments might utilize more sensitive quantum systems to see whether intentional focus can actually influence string-resonant phenomena at even subtler levels. Case Study 2. Lucid dream navigation. Several longitudinal studies have explored the capacity of lucid dreamers to navigate dream environments with deliberate intention. Some subjects report dream phenomena that align with waking life synchronicities and precognitive elements. The conscious strings model proposes that lucid dreams may provide direct access to the vibrational field of the universe, bypassing conventional space-time constraints. Mapping recurring symbols and vibrational motifs across lucid dream reports could, reveal underlying string resonances that transcend individual minds. Case Study 3. Quantum biofeedback. So, emerging biofeedback technologies have begun to interface with quantum sensors, creating systems where conscious states may directly influence quantum outcomes. Preliminary experiments using focused meditation in tandem with entangled photon systems suggest that trained participants may, just maybe, subtly bias probabilistic outcomes. These findings, align with the proposition that consciousness and vibrational fields are intimately linked, and that future technologies could perhaps refine this interaction into a measurable science. Case Study 4. Information fields in healing practices. Cross-cultural healing traditions frequently describe manipulating what they call energy fields or vibrational flows. Though often dismissed in conventional medical science, recent studies have actually begun to explore whether intentional therapeutic practices correlate with measurable shifts in electromagnetic or informational fields. Within the conscious strings model, such practices may represent intuitive engagement with the vibrational syntax of the cosmos. Systematic studies could uncover whether certain healing modalities consistently align with or influence string-resonant patterns within biological systems. Case Study 5. Synchronicity clusters in creative breakthroughs. The phenomenon of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that defy statistical explanation, has been widely reported by scientists, artists, and inventors at critical moments of discovery. In the conscious strings framework, synchronicities may emerge from local alignments between individual vibrational fields and broader multiversal resonances. Documenting synchronicity clusters around creative breakthroughs could illuminate the patterns by which information flows across dimensions, hinting at the subtle mechanics of multiversal communication. Emerging technologies, could really help bridge the divide. Quantum resonance detectors could, track vibrational shifts at, unprecedented sensitivity. Neural vibrational mapping may perhaps correlate brain states with specific vibrational patterns in local fields. Immersive virtual environments could, honestly, allow experimental simulations of multiversal resonance scenarios. These tools may help bridge the subjective-objective divide, transforming qualitative experiences into quantifiable data streams. Theoretical advancements are, moving us toward predictive models. The ultimate goal is to develop predictive models that integrate, string resonance dynamics. So let's talk about consciousness field interactions and, these multiversal vibrational harmonics. Such models would not only explain existing anomalies, but also they'd help forecast when and how conscious interaction might actually influence physical systems. The dream is to one day map the so-called vibrational pathways by which intention, meaning, and information shape the unfolding reality, a new physics of participation, really. Collaborative frontiers are emerging where science, art, and philosophy come together, each offering unique perspectives and insights. The next steps in this emerging science will likely involve, cross-disciplinary teams, integrating physicists, cognitive scientists, philosophers, and artists. Artistic exploration is set to model and visualize the aesthetic and symbolic aspects of vibrational resonance, helping us, appreciate its deeper meanings. So philosophical inquiry helps us, refine the ontological and ethical implications of conscious strings. By dissolving disciplinary silos, humanity can, begin to cultivate a truly holistic science that honors both the measurable and the meaningful. Ethical considerations and responsible exploration are honestly essential as we move forward. As we move toward practical engagement with conscious string dynamics, ethical questions become paramount. How should we navigate the power to influence vibrational fields? What responsibilities accompany the ability to co-create reality? How do we ensure that emerging technologies serve the well-being of all life? Establishing ethical guidelines and participatory codes of conduct will be as crucial as the technological advancements themselves. Conclusion: the frontier beckons. The case studies and emerging frontiers presented here are not definitive proofs, but tantalizing glimpses into what may soon become a mature science. The conscious strings hypothesis invites us to explore with curiosity, rigor, and humility, a new frontier where mind and matter, self and cosmos, dream and reality are threads of the same luminous tapestry. In the concluding chapter, we will weave together the threads of this journey, offering reflections on what it means to live, to create, and to dream within this vibrational universe. From ancient philosophies to the most advanced frontiers of string theory, this journey has traversed the boundaries between science, consciousness, and the participatory nature of the cosmos. We began with the seeds of vibration planted millennia ago, tracing their growth through forgotten minds, unorthodox theories, and, provocative challenges to the conventional narratives. We explored the idea that the universe may not simply be a detached mechanism, but a living, dreaming network of resonating strings, proto-conscious entities that weave a reality responsive to observation, attention, and intention. This emerging vision does not invalidate the precision of traditional physics. Rather, it expands it, offering a broader canvas upon which to explore the relationship between mind and matter, between the dreamer and the dream. The participatory universe proposed here dissolves the old binaries, object and subject, measurement and meaning, science and spirituality. In their place, we find an intricate, vibrational tapestry, where each of us is both thread and weaver. What does it mean to live in such a cosmos? It means our choices matter. It means our attention sculpts the unfolding reality. It means we are not passive bystanders, but co-creators of the symphony. Daily life, when viewed through this lens, becomes a dance of resonance, a conscious interaction with the subtle fields that shape the visible and invisible worlds. Intuition, synchronicity, imagination, and even dream logic are not distractions from truth, but portals into its deeper layers. Participation carries responsibility. In shaping the vibrational field, we shape the futures that emerge. The conscious strings hypothesis invites an ethical sensibility attuned to harmony, coherence, and the well-being of all beings within the multiversal symphony. Our actions ripple across dimensions, weaving futures not only for ourselves but for the vast interconnected whole. This book is not an endpoint, but a gateway. The next steps lie in continued research, cross-disciplinary collaboration, technological innovation, and the courageous integration of subjective experience into scientific inquiry. Questions remain: how can we measure the participatory influence of consciousness on string dynamics with greater precision? What are the practical applications of multiversal resonance? How might future societies evolve when these principles become mainstream? The journey is just beginning. The universe may not be a cold expanse governed by indifferent laws. It may be a dreaming organism, an unfolding story, a symphony waiting to be consciously heard, shaped, and expanded. As explorers, as dreamers, as participants in this grand tapestry, we are invited to listen closely to the subtle vibrations, to the whispers across dimensions, to the resonance between our hearts and the cosmos. The strings are singing, the dream continues, and we are part of the song. Thank you for taking this journey. Let us continue to weave, let us continue to dream.